Taylor, I don't know if you're sitting there or not. I'm going to make you a co-host just until um, Dr. Creasy can get in here from her other session. That way the room is open. Otherwise, as soon as I pop out from starting it, it closes everybody out. So.
We've got about 3 minutes before we're set to start this morning. I believe we're set to start at 11:10. I know I'm seeing one of those in the chat. Um, I don't do a whole lot on Zoom as far as being the administrator, so I'm going to try to keep up with everything as best I can. Um, we'll see what I can do here. I said we've got Rhonda with us. Actually, it looks like Chris under Rhonda's name.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth with things in the system, so
Tons of fun this morning.
we're learning the new platform since this is the first year where we've been, using Zoom meeting. It's actually really cool back in the background of everything, but we're still working out the kinks.
It looks good on my side of things. It's been a few things I've adjusted to. Um,
Jennifer, I'm gonna pop out for a second. I'll come right back.
Sounds good. For those of you in here with me, we've got about 1 minute left to start. I believe I have my screen shared with you. Um, we've got just some questions. I am not doing a presentation. I've got just a little bit of a welcome message for you. But this is just a time for us to communicate and share together. And so I've developed some of the questions based around some of the advocacy things. So hopefully this will help us have a good conversation this morning. Okay, we've got 11:10. I've got a few still coming in. Let's give them just a second or two. Um, as I said earlier, I'm not as skilled as others in watching the chat and watching the admit. Um, so if you chat and I don't see it and you need to share something, feel free to unmute yourself. Absolutely feel free to do that. Um, I think we've got about all of us maybe showing 25, and then the admit seemed to have slowed down a little bit. My voice is just a little bit shaky. I've got just a little bit of a head cold. I'm gonna thank my husband for that. He got over one last weekend, and I think he decided to share it with me. Um, it just sounds a little funny, is about all. Okay. Good morning to everybody. I'm Jennifer Creasy. I work with Freed-Hardeman University. I'm the Director of Field Experiences. This is my first year to take on that role, and so I am learning a good bit. Miss Beverly Ivy has been our Field Experience Director for a while, and she has now stepped up to be our chair. And so she's learning the chair role, I'm learning her role, and she has been a huge help for me as we're doing that. I just want to say really quickly, I'm grateful to be in a space with colleagues who understand the complexity and the weight of directing field experiences. It has really thrown me for a loop this year, I can tell you that. When we talk about cultivating growth and planting the seeds for educator success, I don't think there is a role in educator preparation that feels that metaphor more deeply than ours will. Field experiences are where theory meets reality. They are where candidates either begin to see themselves as capable professionals, or sadly, they may begin to question whether they belong. The seeds we plant through placement decisions, mentor selection, supervision, and partnership structures truly shape the future of our profession. At the same time, we know that we are navigating rocky soil. The teacher shortage is real. Districts are stretched. Mentor teachers are tired. There are conversations about shorter routes to licensure and accelerated pathways. We feel the tension between urgency and quality, between responding to workforce needs and protecting the integrity of clinical preparation. So remember for today that this is not a presentation, this is a conversation. Our goals for this session are to name the realities we are facing, to explore how policy and pathway changes are affecting field experiences, and to identify practical ways we can continue cultivating strong, well-prepared educators, even in a season of constraint. I invite you to be honest, I invite candor, and I invite creativity in the responses that we share with one another. If we think like gardeners for a moment, thinking about our theme of cultivating growth and planting seeds for success, think about what soil conditions we are working with, what needs pruning, and what seeds are worth planting that will yield stronger partnerships and stronger teachers in the years to come. So let's begin with a quick reflection, and then we've got some highlighted questions down through here. What do you think feels like it's growing well right now? And what do you think may feel fragile right now? Feel free to unmute yourself and join in anytime.
Can you all hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Hi, it's Darcy from Belmont. Just wanted to say right now, No More Ed TPA feels really good right now. As one of the former professors that helped lead that charge in our college. However, just getting acclimated to the other requirements of our 4-hour supervisors that are helping us with all of the clinical evaluations, that part, it's still, so I would love if we have a moment to hear kind of how that's going for everyone. Our supervisors have shared it is a lot. And so would love to hear how we are compensating or just kind of what's happening in that during that clinical. And I see this says field experience, but our job alike session, I believe, says clinical experience. So I'm not sure if this is the right platform for that, but wanted to just share that. No More Ed TPA, that feels great. What are we doing? How is it going? How are we compensating? It's helpful to hear. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I wholeheartedly second that No More Ed TPA feels wonderful. We've had quite a shift determining which way to go almost. It was such a large part of what we were doing. But I would be happy for others to step in and respond.
That's same. Okay, so he can't find that.
Jennifer, this is Amy Brown from Tennessee Tech. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Darcy, I'm with you. Kudos, EdTPA is off the pressure of our candidates, of our faculty and staff, but Tennessee Tech is having a challenge with the supervisors being into 4 or more observations, and I'm thinking clinical experience, not practicums in this, but with the financial burden of mileage and hours, or trying to find the balance of how much in a one lump sum that we would pay a supervisor per candidate. So we're trying to, figure that out in a way moving forward with a, just not a bukus of money, obviously. That's a challenge for us right now, looking at starting that in the fall. And then I'm not, this is a soapbox we all could get on, but I'm about quality versus quantity. And it's very challenging sometimes for us to have that conversation after a candidate gets all the way to student teaching, residency, whatever you want to call it, to have that conversation that this profession may not be for you. And we're having to seem to have more of those conversations as time goes on. And, it's a shift. So I think good EdTPA challenges for us financially for the supervisors and just that quality of a candidate that we want to produce with Tennessee Tech or anybody's of you all, our EPP name on it.
Anybody else want to jump in there and respond to Amy's comments?
I'll
I'm
jump in. I'm Lisa Fowler. This is my second semester at UT Southern. Before that, I was in another institution in Alabama. The things that I have found successful is we are offering the different pathways into the profession. We have a very strong Grow Your Own program at UT Southern. And, I'm a faculty member and I teach mostly traditional students, but we are also, I'm also running the courses for Grow Your Own and for Job Embedded. So I'm stretched really thin. And we're so successful with those alternative pathways. My frustration is how do we keep the quality there in all pathways without letting one pathway take students from another pathway, like traditional students, when they hear, oh, I can just go get a job as a teacher's aide and try to get in a Grow Your Own program. So that's one of the frustrations. And I agree with Amy. I worry more about quality versus quantity. So I'm a little frustrated with some of the placements for our Grow Your Own people because as a teacher's aide, they control only so much, and some of the classrooms where they're working, I would like to offer some professional development, I guess I would say. And I'm looking at doing that. So our success is our many pathways are thriving right now. Our frustration is I'm looking at future growth and want to make sure that one program does not cause another program to be sacrificed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And also the compensation for supervisors, the quality. And I'm excited about exploring this new apprenticeship model for maybe some of our traditional students too.
Hello, I'm Debbie Cove with South College, and I'm probably going to be the only person on this meeting that says I hate that we let EdTPA go. Yes, it was a bear, but we're struggling to find a way to ensure that all elements that were supported with EdTPA, we're still maintaining that high level of expectation for our candidates. I also, am concerned about, as the last speaker spoke about, I guess my fear is that we're lowering the quality of what we're giving or lowering the expectation for the teachers going out. I'm really concerned about the suggestion for the 2-year associate to be certified. I'm worried that we are in an attempt to fill spots, we are lowering the quality of those candidates, and that's a huge concern. Thank you.
Can I just give an amen?
This is Kelly Wallace. I'm at UTK, and we've been working pretty diligently this year to make sure that we are adding in meaningful experiences now that EdTPA has been taken away. A lot of the teams have added the action research component back into our master's thesis. So they're conducting action research. So that's been a meaningful experience that we've added back in. And then one major thing we've noticed that is missing now that EdTPA is gone is assessment. So we're working on which courses are students going to do some assessment portfolios where they're analyzing student data. So we've identified like community mapping, like how are you going to communicate with parents? We've identified reflection, how are we bridging theory with what we're seeing in the field, the action research, and then the assessment modules. So as teacher ed across all the different programs, we're working on making sure that those are in the same courses. They may look different, but what did we lose from EdTPA and how are we putting it back in so that we're not watering down the experience, I think has been our focus this year.
Those are some great points.
Really
Hi.
quickly, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm from Welch College, but one of the things we have struggled with is in trying to go to the 4 major observations is getting another person to observe with us. Because I know the state had recommended that at least one of those, have that inter-rater reliability and having one of the administrators come in and do it. The administrators don't have that time that we've run into. They want to send an instructional coach, but the instructional coaches haven't done the certification for team. So we're struggling to, our college mentor can go in and do it, but to have that second person in there for one of them. And I just wondered if anybody else had faced problems with that or what you've done.
We actually have always done again, I'm sorry, this is Debbie Cole from South College. We've always done 4 observations during student teaching, and we typically try to have those done by 2 different faculty members, so who have been team certified. Now, I still think that there could be some biases just because we're both South College faculty. And it would be great, as you mentioned, to get an administrator to do one as well.
Has anyone ever explored a clinical master teacher model?
Tell us more about that.
We used this at my other institution, and I'm slowly easing into proposing it at my current institution. But we created a team in our partner schools of master teachers. They had to have a master degree, they had to go through training, all the things. The master degree could be substituted with years of experience. We just wanted quality teachers working with our students. And so they worked as a team where if I had one student in my classroom and Jennifer, you had one in your classroom, we would have a third person on our team that was called the liaison. And we would share supervision. You would come in and supervise my students some. I would come in and evaluate your students some. And then we would have a third set of eyes from the liaison coming in. So in essence, our students were being supervised by 3 different people in the building. And then the supervisor from the university or the liaison from the university met with the teams every so often. They would meet with the teacher teams to discuss strengths and weaknesses. Then they would meet with the students in the clinical practice to discuss from their standpoint how things were going so that we always could intervene where needed. But it was a shared supervision model where they were getting more feedback from different teachers and they were also able to have different perspectives.
I like that, having the different perspectives. A very interesting approach to that.
Would those teams be, who was just talking?
Is that Lisa, maybe?
Yes, I'm
Lisa?
sorry.
Thank
Hi.
you. Thank you for sharing. That's Darcy again from Belmont. Would that team so all 3 of them would be trained by the EPP to supervise, and so does that usually mean an increase in pay, or are they splitting that fee for that student? Well, they're all getting paid except for the third person who would not have someone tied to them. Is that how I'm hearing it?
Yeah, the third person was compensated at a lower level as the liaison, They all would go through the training for quality observation, clinical practice. We called it internship. They would all go through the training together with us, and we had modules they completed to make sure they were vetted. And we also, as a way to set them apart, we gave them a certificate that they could hang outside their classroom. It's sort of like just giving them some distinction as I'm a master teacher. And so I'm looking at hopefully trying to get my colleagues on board with implementing this model and doing a pilot study soon. But if you want, we did this at the University of Alabama, and if you want to read more about it, there's a lot of literature out there. Dr. Lisa Wilson is one of the primary authors, and she was one of the founders of this program. So if you Google Elizabeth K. Wilson, you will see some publications on the model. But it has received national recognition, so I'm excited to try and get it going at UT Southern. And the teachers, they liked it because they felt like they had a distinction that was not just, oh, I supervise interns.
Lisa, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to definitely do some research there as well. Wanted to share, we have also considered paying or finding a way to compensate our mentor teachers to be team certified. All of our faculty and clinical supervisors are team certified, and we go through recertification each year, but also trying to encourage our mentor teachers to go through that training. We hadn't gotten there yet, but we would love to compensate them in some kind of way, I guess similar to what Cedar does or did for the mentor teachers that went through the extra training with the state. That would be quite lovely. And I wanted to also follow back up with Debbie. Debbie, I was one of those people that also secretly loved EdTPA. The pressure of doing EdTPA right now has been a blessing for me this semester. However, I have missed the rigor, and one of our clinical, or several of our clinical supervisors did comment on what they're seeing right now in the field, when we would really focus on central focus and assessment, as I think Amy, someone else have shared, that is not as strong right now in the field like it was present with EdTPA. So anything that some of the other EPPs are doing, that is something that our faculty and clinical supervisors will be jumping into this semester to make sure we are maintaining the rigor of aligning the central focus, the assessments, the objectives, the standards, all of those things, because we are seeing that piece missing right now in the field. We've also had some changes in our instructors that are teaching that class. So we're all working together to do that. So if you all have any type of planning documents that might be available that you don't mind sharing, we'd love to see that, because we're jumping into that work. Thank you.
Debbie Cole here. Thank you. Yes, we had what we had grown to see with EdTPA is that, and one of our candidates said it. She came into a seminar one night and said, it just hit me. What we're doing with EdTPA is bringing together everything you all have been teaching me. And I was like, yes, that is it. And so, we had really, I think we cover things, but when that assessment element wasn't there, in the previous classes, then it really doesn't become real to the candidates. But once they knew, okay, wait a minute, I've got to hone in on this and have everything, check all my boxes and have it done correctly, then it becomes real to them. And so, we've toyed with still requiring EdTPA and letting it be the candidate's choice whether they submit or not. We are really at our wits' end with this because we don't want to lose the elements. And I understand action research. Yes, we sort of let EdTPA replace action research, and truly those are two different things. And so, I'm not saying one is better than the other. We probably never should have let action research go away, but it was sort of hard to focus on both of those huge tasks. So we're just really, I'm struggling with it because I've been the EdTPA coordinator since it came into play at South College, and I've really taken that role seriously. And now it's like, so how are we going to maintain this rigor? I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. If I could backtrack for just a second, excuse me. Lisa, when you were telling us about the model that you were using in Alabama, could you pop that information in the chat for the lady's name that we could Google to get that information? Oh, I think you got it there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Others that are waiting to chime in and respond. I'm going to move to this question 5 here that's highlighted. Um, are you seeing that you have districts more willing or less willing to host candidates than they were 3 to 5 years ago? Are you seeing any differences in that?
Debbie Cole here. I won't say they're less willing,
Mm-hmm.
but it does seem like they are questioning more. What will this entail? What will we have to do? What is, and I'm not sure why, but that is sort of what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Shanice Sly here from the University of Memphis. I've run into the same issue. The districts are, I wouldn't say it's more so not willing, but they have a lot of questions asking what is going to entail. But I have a really hard time getting some students placed in the districts because either we don't have the teachers that we need for the specific class, or they're first-time teachers, or they're just not willing to have a mentor student, because at the University of Memphis, we really stuff students in the school districts.
Mm-hmm.
So we're running into a lot of issues, and this has probably been my hardest year since I started last year of getting students placed.
I have noticed a couple of shortages in the extras or the specials, like getting art teachers placed, because some counties just simply don't have an art teacher in the county. Okay. Let's move into the shorter routes to licensure from the advocacy questions this morning. How do you think, do we even want to consider those shorter routes and how that's going to impact us with the depth of clinical practice, the candidate readiness, and the mentor teacher load? And if you're not sure on that question, we can look at question 10. What non-negotiables do we want to make sure that remain in field experiences, even in accelerated pathways? Or I'm thinking y'all might just be ready for lunch if nobody is wanting to share out.
I'll just go back to shorter pathways can sometimes mean sacrificing quality of the teachers we're turning out, and especially if we start certifying them with an associate's degree, we're going to kill our 4-year programs.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, I'll speak up. I don't have an answer. And at Tennessee Tech, we had a meeting last week with the chair of curriculum instruction, with our dean, with our associate dean, just to brainstorm on ways that we could potentially do some alternative pathways without sacrificing the rigor and preparedness of the candidates. And we've got some ideas, but we don't have any clear-cut answers. And Lisa, I'm with you. It's And the reason we had that discussion was because of what Lisa said, because of the talk out there about an associate's degree. So that's the reason for us having that talk. And it's sad, but I'm afraid we're going to have to really think outside the box and create some of those, but try to keep some rigor in there for our candidates to be prepared to be teachers. And I don't know the answer of what that's going to be like at this point.
I mean, I know the funding doesn't support this, but I'd almost like to see like a hybrid model where if JEP students are working, in the building I'm in secondary, so if they're on block scheduling, they're only responsible for teaching 2 classes and they have a plan, and then they have a block where they're observing or working with a mentor. But that lack of mentorship in the JEP program, we're really struggling with. Like on paper, it looks great. Like the mentors are supposed to be involved, but that's very rarely the case. It's almost like if we could create a hybrid model where they're hired part-time, they're teaching 2 classes, and then they get the other experience as well. But I mean, money. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where that
Love
funding
that
comes from.
idea. Money's the root of all of our issues, I'm afraid. My concern with, if the associate's degree, I'm concerned you're going to have 20-year-olds teaching 18-year-olds in high school. And I'm not even sure 20-year-olds are ready to teach 5-year-olds in kindergarten.
I actually worry if it could be 17 or 18-year-olds teaching, because if they
Yes,
get their associates during high school.
yes.
Mhm.
And I think, are they going to explore, age minimums possibly? I think there's a lot of things we've got to think through on this.
Well, and
Well,
also like I'm thinking an associate's degree, I'm in secondary English. So are we saying they're not going to have a degree in their subject area? Because I don't think you can get an associate's degree in a content, right?
I hadn't even thought about that either. I don't
It's
know
my
how that's going to go.
understanding, I actually went to the Hill Day, February the 11th, and spoke with several people, trying to voice my opinion about things, and one of which was this associate's degree. And Cameron Sexton said to me, well, we spend a lot of time in college, those first 2 years, wasting it on things that have nothing to do with what we end up doing in our job. And I said to him, well, that could be said for all occupations, engineering or any, but during those first 2 years, we're getting that content knowledge and all the academic, contents, and then I think it's almost comical that now we want to say have a civics test, but yet we're going to take away those first 2 formative years of college when things like civics are often explored. So I'm really struggling with the associate's degree and what we're going to lose. But it's my understanding from speaking with him, and I also spoke to the chair of the education committee in both the House and the Senate, and those 2 people heard me out and were open-minded, but Cameron Sexton was very close-minded on he's in my opinion, he is very much in support of the associates being a teacher, that he said that's all we need.
Well, from the elementary perspective, I think the elementary teachers especially need those first 2 years of content. And I also worry because there are so many scripted programs out there that if we start certifying elementary teachers with a 2-year degree, they're going to become very robotic and just read scripts all day. And we're actually going to say, hey, why are we even bothering to have a degree for those people if they can just read scripts all day?
I am fearful that's where we're headed. And one of the things, I'm sorry, Debbie Cole again, but you've hit me on a passionate note. One of the things that I said to them about multiple things is we have to improve public schools. And we're not going to improve public schools by lowering the standards, 2 of which I'm passionate about EdTPA going away, and now we're thinking about knocking it down even further and saying associate's degrees. And I will say there are people, I won't say possibly, there are people who naturally have that ability to be good teachers, and they come by it, and we've seen them in our programs, but they're few and far between. And I think that we really have to think about, my thing that I said to each person I spoke with, we need to raise the salary. And just about every one of them said, well, we raised it to 50,000. Yes, but if you go analyze what you're paying teachers, you didn't raise everybody, let's say 15,000. You did it for the first year teacher, but they don't see that same return second year, third year, and our 20-year teacher didn't see that. And so we need to, to me, that raising it to 50,000, it was something they did that the public thinks, oh, teachers got a huge pay increase. Well, starting teachers did get a pay increase, but when we look at a pay schedule, we're not seeing that same return for each year. Sorry, I'll be quiet now.
I was thinking about the last salary schedule that I had looked at for a public school in West Tennessee. And I don't know if this is similar across the board, but I want to say it topped out at 20 years. And so as personally a 30-year educator, I kind of wonder about those of us in that area and why
Yes,
that's not
ma'am.
represented.
Yes, in my seminar class, one of the things I do is look at all the pay schedules for anybody that, if you're in my course and you think you want to go work in this system, we look at those so that so that the candidates are educated, because that's one thing I felt was missing from my program. It's sort of like I got this degree and I know nothing about what I'm supposed to get paid or when I'm getting paid or how my pay compares with someone in the neighboring system. So I look at those with them, and so that they can see, normally we have neighboring systems where people are wanting to work, so then they can look and compare. And I'm telling you, in just about every system I look, you don't see that same return. You don't see a 10-year teacher getting 15,000 more. You don't see even, as they move up and you do the math, really that second year teacher is not getting 15,000 more than what was on the pay schedule before them. They're getting a bump, but they're not maintaining that $15,000 increase. And I'm using that number, just thinking if a school system went from 35,000 to 50, and many of them didn't, but I'm using that 15,000 for those two numbers.
Definitely some things to think about. And I'm trying to follow in the chat, and the perception that anybody can teach, and this perpetuates that perception. I think that is what's so disheartening to the profession, is that it's seen as that exactly, Lisa. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. What are you all able to do to help grow your mentor teachers? Are you able to do things for them, to celebrate them, to train them? What are you able to do to help entice your teachers to be mentor teachers in your area districts?
Hi, Tiffany Deller, MTSU. This is something that we've talked about a lot, and I wish I could say that we figured out more on the professional development front. But one thing that we started doing that our mentor teachers have surprisingly really appreciated is we're hosting them and their families for events on the weekend. And I don't know that I would have ever guessed that it would have been so well received. But hosting them and having them be acknowledged at a football game, hosting them and having them be acknowledged at a baseball game, and then encouraging them to bring their families with them has actually been something that we've gotten, not necessarily feedback that it's made someone else want to be a mentor, but that it is encouraging for some of our returning mentors that they feel appreciated and want to continue with us.
That is a fabulous idea. Love that.
Shanice Slide for the University of Memphis. For our residency mentor teachers and clinical teachers, they receive stipends for fall and spring semesters. We let the students and supervisors vote for mentor teacher of the month. They get a spotlight at our end of the year ceremony. We do check-ins regularly with our mentor teachers to see where they are, if they have any questions. We do a lot of drop-in. So it's if they have any typical questions, they can drop in from 5 to 6 or whenever we decide to host these meetings through Teams, where they could ask any questions that they need, any troubles that they are experiencing. They're just there to talk and we're there to help. That's what's been going on with us at the U of M. It's working. The mentor teachers really enjoy it, and we're actually able to bring on more teachers to help with student teaching. And we just basically look to see how the mentor teacher interacts with the student, how well the student enjoys. But a lot of the feedback that we get towards the end of the year, the students fill out a Qualtrics survey based on their experience from their clinical teaching or residency teaching, and we take that information and base it from there to recruit more teachers or to see what works and what's not working. It's always improving each year.
Very good.
Chris Brown, UTC. So this space has been near and dear to me because I know all of this goes down to money, right? With half of our problems, I feel like when it comes to clinical supervising and mentoring. I created a tiering system with our mentors, where you kind of just have base level if whatever we would base level stipend them, but to retain great ones, I stipend them more at each level. So if they are recognized as like a high quality mentor once, their stipend extra. If they do it again, their stipend even more so. It seems to have been very well received. We've had kind of what Tiffany, you mentioned. We have a mentor teacher award banquet where we just feed them and give them something to put outside their door. And shockingly, it really has. Like I think just the simple fact that I had one mentor come up and just say, "No one has ever recognized me just for being a classroom teacher," and it's like because I mean, we know the recognition goes to maybe the one rock star teacher in the school or the principal, and administration kind of gets the view of the holistic idea of the school. But when we think about leadership pathways, especially among just those who want to stay in the classroom because they are so effective at what they do and enjoy that space, really elevating that component of leadership, it's always on my mind, but just recognizing that space as well. I've been throwing around the idea with obviously the policy changing. My highly effective mentors, the ones that have mentored 2, 3, and 4 different students, and it's always been successful. Do I actually train them as trained reviewers, therefore eliminating the need to actually have a clinical supervisor? And they serve that role jointly because now they've had enough students to prove they don't need a supervisor from the university. And they can still effectively evaluate and give me a score that I can use for Kate. So it is something that I know I have been exploring on my end. They don't need someone, to be over their shoulder from the university when they can contact me and say, "Hey, I'm having an issue," and I'll go handle it with them, rather than, where a supervisor would normally play that middle space. So that is something I've been throwing around as well, about that joint role of if someone has proved it, instead of paying a supervisor X amount of money to have to travel and go do all these things, turn that money into the mentor teacher themselves and let them, benefit from it financially and honoring the work that they've done previously.
Thank you. Those are all excellent ideas. I got several that I jotted down really quickly so I can discuss it with our team.
Excuse me, Debbie Cole here again. I think it's Chris Brown that just spoke. You said stipend. Are you paying those on a 1099 or how are you? We've tried to go and offer monetary items for our mentors, but the powers that be within our institution won't let us do it because the financing and the legalities of it. So I'm wondering how you're doing the stipends.
Yeah, so they actually go through the UT system as a vendor. And that's how we're able to stipend them is they actually set up their own account as a vendor. And then what I can say is they serve this time as a mentor. There is some required training at each level that we have for them. So like my baseline mentors get a different training than, the ones that are higher up. I've involved our primary partner to do instructional coaching strategies. So it takes them beyond just okay, here's what you need to be a mentor at UTC, understand your roles, capacity, and taking that another level into, a different level of coaching. But I can also attach that to, they also attended a training. So there's a couple different ways I can look at that. But that's what they do with us, and then they're paid that additional pay or it comes as in the form of a 1099. So like, taxes are taken out of that for them. But yes, they set up as a vendor with the UT system.
We've got one question in the chat about how do they level up? Was that addressed, Lisa, or do you still have that standing question?
I just wondered if Chris could elaborate on how they are recognized and able to level up.
So I go again, this goes back to CAPE requirements too, but I go back to their clinical supervisor and their teacher candidate evaluations. Yeah, that was one of the first things I did here was going back and rebuilding those at a better capacity to get the right the right information to make that decision. And then usually what I do is I look at each content area, grade levels, and I try to be selective within that. So like, yeah, I may have 3 or 4 really good STEM teachers like biology or science in high school, whatever, but we only select 1 out of that group or 2 out of the group if there's like a tie within that. And then there's an anecdotal spot where they actually share out why you're recommending this person for the award. And I work back and forth with the supervisor too, and kind of that decision making. So that's kind of how I've approached it, just from that level up. So they award it once, that certain numbers, a certain stipend if they are awarded again, because that just takes out the replication aspect of you've done this now for multiple students, a higher stipend. So we cap right now at it's 1,000 is the stipend for my master, what I call my master mentors. The ones below them are at a lower level, but that's what I've been able to work so far in this space. And it seems to have been very well received.
Hey, Chris, and then with that 1099, so they don't get the whole 1,000, right? Because of the taxes taken out of that, but that's the base of what you turn in, or they are contractually
Yes.
to pay. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
500 a semester because we still do Res 1, Res 2.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the breakdown is that 500 per.
Thank you.
Mhm. These, I don't know if you all can see it, but these are the door badges we put outside their door. It just says model mentor, master mentor. It's a piece of plastic that's, like $11 to create. And it's really, I've had people from districts, other places be like, hey, I popped by and saw this person's badge. And I don't know. To them, it just makes them feel appreciated, and I think that's just any way to do that, even if it's just something as small as that. It's gone a long way.
Just some clarifications on a 1099, no taxes are taken, but you have to claim it on your income and then it is counted into your gross income.
Okay, then that may be then it may be the other way around then, Debbie. I know supervisors and mentors, I sometimes forget who's whose gets taxes out and whose doesn't.
We have just about come to the end of our time today. I want to thank you all. I have learned so many great ideas. Is there anything else that anybody has pressing that they want to bring up before the group before we dismiss?
I think that it sounds like we all have so many different issues and different ideas. I think it would be great if we developed some sort of pilot study to implement a model across several institutions and gather some data to see if we can find some solutions to some of our issues.
I like that idea too, Lisa.
Anytime y'all want to meet outside of TACTI, I don't mind facilitating getting the Zoom link through, TACTI, and if we want to meet a certain number of times a semester, because I know these kind of discussions just help in general. So, I'm all ears if that's something the group ever wants to do.
Thank you for that. That sounds like a great idea too, if we can make that work. All right, everyone. I think we're just coming in under the wire. Maybe you can grab you some lunch and make it to the business meeting. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for participating and sharing out today. I appreciate all of you.
Hey, Jennifer,
Yes,
just wanted to say my maiden name was Creasy, but it was spelled Reasy.
really. Well,
Yeah.
somebody has told me long ago that all those people are going to be connected one way or the other. My husband's people are from Wayne County, Tennessee. So
Okay,
I
and
don't know with
all
you
of
in
mine
Alabama.
are, well, we're all from Cloverdale, Alabama and Green Hill, Alabama. So, but I think we're all connected too.
I have an idea. Yes, yes. Well, how interesting.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.